that work for you? Okay.
Thank you. Welcome to the Robin Theater, everybody. How are we feeling on this beautiful evening? It's springtime in Lansing. The only pretty ring time, I'm told. And what a great night to pass a laurel on this springtime night in Lansing. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Robin for this ceremonial passing of the laurel from one wonderful Lansing Poet Laureate to another. I'm honored to be hosting it in our intimate listening room here at the Robin Theater. Honestly, it feels like a family reunion because so many of you are frequent guests of ours here at the Robin. My name's Dylan Rogers, and like I said, I know we're all cousins at this point, but some of you, I know at least one of you are going to be here for the very first time, so if I may, I'll just go over my bit of a welcoming spiel, and I think this lends itself to the spirit of the Poet Laureate program here, and it's not too long. It varies depending on how with it I am the night I'm giving it. I feel moderately with it. I'll keep it brief. The important thing is to note that you are welcome here at the Robin Theater. I still feel like a lot of us are adjusting to getting back out and going to events and stuff. And it's important to me that you know that no one's here to judge you. We all came here for a reason to celebrate these wonderful poets, to take part in our poetry community. So just know that whoever you're sitting next to, even if you don't know them already, in front of you, behind you, whatever, you're among friends. Pardon me if that sounds too tacky, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. We're all friends here, so let's enjoy ourselves. Let's feel safe in the company we're with, and I hope you let yourself be a human being tonight. That means let yourself feel things. If there's a discomfort that touches you or something, feel it, let it pass, and enjoy yourself in the space. If you need to make a weird noise, if you need to clear your throat, if you need to let out a little woo, or something like that, you can, just like that. You can absolutely do this. This is a little something that I learned from my friend, the current poet laureate, Masaki Takahashi. We love to snap at the poetry room, and so if you hear something you like, you are welcome to snap, okay? In fact, we encourage it. In fact, it's mandatory. We've just decided it. You gotta snap. You gotta show love for these people. We're a part of a community, and when you're part of a community, you don't have to say it all the time, but sometimes you gotta tell people that you love them. So you can do that in a tiny way tonight, just by giving a little snap when you feel like you hear something you like, someone needs a little support, something like that. Is that okay? Can we do that? Is that fairly simple? Okay. Sweet. Love it. Y'all get it. Yeah, we can hear you in the back too, so even in the back, you can snap it up. Love it. It's my job to welcome you to the Robin Theater, to thank the organizers of this event, and I'm sure that we'll have, there are many thanks to go around, but big thanks to LEAP and to the Arts Council and to the Residential College of Arts and Humanities, the Poetry Center at the RCAH, or the Center for Poetry, that is. And thank you to Masaki and to Ruelaine. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's my great pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker for the evening, and I'd like your help in giving a very warm welcome, and you can snap. You could also just, if you feel like getting loud, you could just do that, and we can get that out of our system. That sounds fun, actually. So I think we should just get really loud and give a very warm welcome to the President and CEO of LEAP, Bob Trezise.
Well, Dylan, thank you very much for the introduction, and congratulations, your vision. I mean, it is like being amongst cousins or friends as you set up here tonight. I really can't believe I'm on this stage. This Robin Theater is what the rebirth of Lansing is all about, and you were ahead of everybody on that, and I really appreciate you so deeply, Dylan. Thank you for all you've done. Neighbors, my office is just down the street here. Well, my name is Trezise. I'm the president and CEO of the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, which is LEAP, and we run economic development for Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton County. So you might be saying, why is he here tonight on the Robin stage? And it's a long story. Well, I don't know if it's a long story, but it's a damn good story, actually. Dylan started it by saying he was moderately on tonight, and I'm feeling already, because so am I. It's so great, incredible to be on this stage. I've been at the poetry room here in the Robin Theater and a number of years ago and sat invisibly, scared to death, way in the back of the room. And I saw these incredible poets up here. And is Masaki here in the room right now? I mean, it was really incredible because he was one of those incredible poets that I watched up here, and it was an amazing experience to see him go along with the rest of the poets that were here. It was an amazing experience. So it's incredible that I'm up here. But just a little bit of a story. Are we going to watch a video?
Yeah, I have it queued up back there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a really cool story. So, you know, a poet wannabe and a real poet like Ruelaine, we were both at a writers' conference trying to figure it all out. And so I'm a Lansing kid, Cumberland, Otto, Sexton, and I've been doing economic development for the city, for LEAP, and really a bunch, well, not a bunch, but another number of organizations here. And I'm always really, you know, driven with, healthy or not, but a big chip on my shoulder. I mean, a big one. Because I really resent and think Michigan, the state, can be better, and Lansing can be better. And I've never understood why, you know, we're not in the sort of considered with the big boys kind of. And that's really propelled me personally and professionally. So I was thinking about the state 6-7 years ago, and the state of Michigan did not have a poet laureate. And it really bugged me because a lot of other states did. And why them and not us, I guess, chip on the shoulder, right? But then I thought even deeper, wait a minute, am I reading this correctly, that Grand Rapids and I don't know where was it, Ann Arbor? Okay, as usual, those guys have one too. What about us? This is crazy. So Ruelaine and I began talking about that, and Ruelaine agreed, yeah, it is crazy, and we both agreed, let's just do something about it, as usual. There is no cavalry coming over the hill. There's just us. And so we brainstormed, and I'm pleased to tell you that LEAP funds the Lansing Poet Laureate program, and it's done in partnership. It was created in partnership with the Lansing Poetry Club and RCAH at Michigan State University. Laurie Hollinger was incredible in all this as well. And thank you, Laurie, very, very, very much. Lansing Poetry Club, which is another amazing experience that I've, in past years, really enjoyed experiencing on Sunday afternoons. So it just all added up, but I'll bet you that we are the only economic development agency in America, literally, that has ever had the audacity to start and run a poet laureate program. There cannot be enough. So, and we think it's economic development. I mean, I had a large board of directors that I had to convince about this, and believe me, their heads were tipped like this. What? But we really talked about, you know, economic development is not just incentives and real estate and developers and big business and all of that. I get it, we are, but that's all it means to an end. The end of economic development is supposed to be about upraising the community and all people within that community. We also have Department of Economic Planning, probably one of the few in the country, where we really try to uplift everybody. It all adds up, arts and culture and parks and Robin theaters and poets. It all adds up at the end of the day to successful economic development. So that's what we're trying to do here. And sorry for you, I don't even know where I am in this script. There's so many else. But I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to say. But primarily, of course, why I'm here is to celebrate Masaki. As I mentioned, I sat back there trembling and looked up in the stage a number of years ago, and this guy, Masaki, was up here with other amazing poets, and I just was stunned, and I still am by his abilities to be, I think, in my judgment, an incredible poet. So Masaki has been our third poet laureate. The first was Dennis Hinrichsen, who is here with us tonight. Dennis, the hardest job of all, kicking something off and setting the bar as high as he did. Apol, right? Is that right? Yeah. She, I think, had the unfortunate luck of her 2-year terms, our second poet laureate, being during the pandemic, which is a real bummer. Except Laurie was reminding me she did amazing things, and she did during that very lonely time in a way. And then Masaki has come along, and he has been incredible too. Some of the things, he's been amazing. He's outspoken, he's vibrant, he's uncompromising, exactly the way I love it, and exactly the way a poet should be. He even came and spoke and gave a presentation to my board of directors, all in their suits and ties. Yeah. And he did an incredible job at that. He's been a leader of our community. To me, he is what economic development is about, because he's about what people are about, and that's us. And he's had all kinds of successes. He really worked hard to leverage his position, and we continue to try to build those bridges that he has started. Of course, he remains with us. Just because there's a passing the torch, someone remains to continue to building a bridge that never begins and never ends. It just goes on. So Masaki, is Masaki here?
I am here.
Yeah, thank you so much, my friend. So much appreciated. Ruelaine Stokes, who was a founder of all of this, really, and is in her own right a truly amazing poet. Read her last book that she worked on and published a year ago. It's an amazing book. So I appreciate everybody. So with that, I just want to make sure that I do catch everything. One thing, Masaki also wanted to mention that there's so many things that he's achieved as poet laureate, but one of them was also the annual book party with the Capital Area District Library to help promote literacy. So thank you, Masaki, for that as well. And there's been so many placemaking initiatives and that he's done. But with that, we paid for and did a little bit of a video on behalf of this program itself.
Yeah,
I bet you're going to take a try at it?
Yeah, we're going to take a crack at it. We're being human in the room tonight. This is Lansing.
I never think video clips actually work, but
yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, it's a miracle if it does, right?
In 2017, LEAP, along with the Residential College of Arts and Humanities Center for Poetry and the Lansing Poetry Club, began the Lansing Poet Laureate program. Specifically, this was to promote the literary arts as an opportunity for additional placemaking growth in our local community.
The base idea came out of, I think, LEAP from Bob Trezise when I was appointed, talking to him about cultural life in Lansing and the quality of life here and how important it was. And the goal was to add poetry to that mix, to add it to the murals and sculpture, etc. I think it's important for a number of reasons. One, it speaks to the spiritual life of a place. Right? You're writing about where you are, you're identifying yourself, you're speaking to others, you're connecting to others. Lansing has a really rich poetry culture, there's a huge community spirit there. When I was doing it, I also thought that poetry is really important because it seeks otherness.
The local poet laureate has to engage with the community across the region, specifically through workshops, projects, or readings. And this really helps to provide more of an opportunity for community engagement in the spoken word. We've seen a lot of opportunities through events or even during COVID on social media as a way to really enhance what is going on in our local community, but also bring into picture just the opportunities that folks that are interested in poetry can explore.
Something.
I mean, just we're getting the good part.
Yeah.
Regardless of the term, I've done the same thing before, during, and I'm going to do the same thing after, and that is to encourage people to tell the story that they want to tell. I believe that Lansing has a rich story and culture here that people want to hear.
So
So we were coming up to April, which is National Poetry Month, and I knew that there were things that I was planning, for instance, workshops and readings that were really ramping up. But in March, everything closed down. In that 2-week period, all of our lives were completely upended, and so was my job as the Poet Laureate. So just as quickly as all the other pivots happened, we went to being online, and for the month of April, every day, some poet in the community recorded themselves reading a poem and sent it to me, and I posted it every day on the Facebook site for the Lansing Poet Laureate. And it ended up being kind of a daily record of our lives during the pandemic, during that very, very early stage of what we were starting to have to figure out and navigate. So that was the very beginning of doing the work from a distance.
Was able to engage through social media where folks could promote their own poetry and speak their favorite pieces as a way for connection, especially during the pandemic.
Making that switch right at the beginning was the start of recognizing what poetry could do for our community during this shared experience that we were having.
The community was ready for Poet Laureate. It was amazing. The other thought I had was that the Poet Laureate project isn't just me for 2 years with deliverables. It's a project that should be decades long.
I would say that the arts are central to who we are as humans, and that putting literary arts, putting poetry into the mix of the many art forms that take place in the Lansing area is a crucial piece.
I think that people are really coming to Lansing for poetry now. Anybody who is touring poet really wants to come to Lansing now. They see what we do here, they want to be part of this, and I want to bring them all in.
We know that it's important that our community has pride in what they're doing, especially in the literary arts, and that looks like this Lansing Poet Laureate program where they can acknowledge and be recognized for the talent that we have here, and that we remain prideful in what's going on here in the local Lansing region.
So there's one last piece of this story, is LEAP has been doing this, and our funding will continue. But really, there are plenty of other experts, and we're moving on to this huge entrepreneurial initiative in childcare. We've created the first ever regional childcare coalition, so we're doing a lot of things. So we got to have someone else great running the Poet Laureate program, and that is the Arts Council of Greater Lansing and Meghan Martin, Meghan and her team are doing a great job and will carry the torch just like we're passing the torch on from one great poet to another great poet tonight. There's another kind of passing the torch too. So I think Meghan now is, is that okay to, okay, Meghan Martin.
Absolutely.
That's theater.
And I'm not off book, as they say, so excuse my phone. I know I've seen a couple of poetry room performances, and I know that sometimes it's okay to look at your phone and as long as you're emoting. So, thank you, Dylan. And thank you for hosting us here on World Book Day. And thank you for being such great support. And thank you, Bob, and the team at LEAP for doing such a fantastic job building a program with Ruelaine and Laurie and other supporters. They really made it so that we could make this an easier transition and help support in the way that we do at the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. In the process of developing this year's program with my team, I focus so much on the administration and the technical assistance and the staff time that goes into transitioning a program like this. But at the truth of all of it is that the literary arts are so important to me and my team. We wanted to make sure that we were doing it justice. The Arts Council of Greater Lansing, our mission is to support, strengthen, and promote arts, culture, and creativity in the Greater Lansing region. And I would add that we do so with diversity, equity, and inclusivity in mind always. That being said, when we decided to take on, or Bob and I decided that we should really consider bringing this over to the Arts Council, the literary arts, while always supported through our grant programs, it was a really nice fit for us amongst our programming to really honor the literary arts in a way that we had already been honoring the visual arts and the performing arts. So I'm really glad to add this to our programming. The unique element for the Arts Council in taking the helm of this program, however, is that it was already well thought out and established. And so we took our time to understand the goals and ways that it could be cohesive with our other programs and embrace the poetry community. We are excited for the opportunities this provides to reach those in our community that we serve, and we intend to continue to increase the sustainability of the program. We want to see this going long into the future, as Bob said, while elevating poetry and increasing accessibility. All that being said, I am not a poet, but I recently found words to describe my feelings in a TED Talk by Ethan Hawke, of all places, where he said, so you have to ask yourself, do you think human creativity matters? Well, most people don't spend a lot of time thinking about poetry, right? They have a life to live, and they're not really that concerned with Allen Ginsberg's poems or anybody's poems until their father dies. They go to a funeral, you lose a child, somebody breaks your heart. They don't love you anymore. And all of a sudden you're desperate for making sense out of this life. And has anybody ever felt this bad before? How did they come out of this cloud or the inverse? And that's when art's not a luxury, it's actual sustenance. I paraphrased that a little bit, but you get the point. I want to thank our review panel, who spent hours discussing what it means to be Poet Laureate and reading through applications with care. Thank those of you who built the program before us, to the Center of Poetry and the Lansing Poetry Club for your support through this process transition. And thank you finally to the previous Poet Laureates for your work in both your term and in mentoring future poets. I look forward to working with you, Ruelaine, over the course of your term, and I know she will reinforce that art is not a luxury, it's actually sustenance. With that, I want to introduce our next speaker, Peter Ruark, the treasurer of the board of the Lansing Poetry Club.
Well, here on behalf of the Lansing Poetry Club, I just want to say, Ruelaine, we are very proud of you and very happy to see you. Ruelaine has done so much for the Lansing Poetry Club in the past several years. And I can't tell you the exact year, but the Lansing Poetry Club, for those of you who don't know, the Lansing Poetry Club has been around since the 1930s. 38? Okay, thank you. So it's been around for a while, and it's, had some ups and downs, most likely, but Ruelaine took the helm took the vice helm. She was asked to be vice president in 2015, and then the president went off somewhere to graduate school, so suddenly she was thrust into the president role, and prior to that, she had not been on the board. She actually was involved in establishing some Old Town poetry readings at Creole Gallery, but started coming to Lansing Poetry Club events and was she's really taken it in a lot of places. As some of you probably remember, prior to COVID, we used to meet at the Micah Gallery in Old Town, and then COVID hit, of course, and gee, what do you do? So we did some online things, and Ruelaine has just come up with like all these ideas. We have done fundraisers for refugee development services and loaves and fishes. We've done online workshops, we've done in-person workshops, and Ruelaine had a big hand in all of these things. So she's really made the Lansing Poetry Club what it is today. So, just on behalf of Lansing Poetry Club, once again, we are very happy to see Ruelaine get this recognition. And just a quick little plug, if you don't have anything to do on Sunday afternoons, the third Sunday of the month, we do have readings out in what used to be in Micah Gallery, but now they are out in the Copper Chimney Lounge of University Methodist Church. So just a little plug for the Lansing Poetry Club, and that's 4 to 6 every third Sunday. So with that, I will introduce Laurie Hollinger, who is the acting director and assistant director and currently acting director of the Residential College for Arts and Humanities, RCAH. So.
Thank you. This is what I love about this community. Oh my goodness. So, I was going to start telling you about what happened in 2016 when the Center for Poetry's founder, Anita Skeen, and I and Ruelaine were talking about this state poet laureate. I remember we made postcards. We were going to send them off to, Sam Singh. We had his here. He was in the Michigan House of Representatives at the time. And we were so determined to get a state poet laureate, because why not? This is one of the most beautiful states in the country. So many poets, such a legacy. I can't see any of your faces.
Yeah. But we're here. We're here.
I know you are. I know you are. So, at any rate, as Bob shared, this was a real thing for us. When I really did have the conversation with Representative Singh, he said, I got to tell you, this bill. There was a bill, an active bill. I don't know how many times they tried to get this to happen. He said the bill is in a committee where bills go to die. I'm like, well, okay. So, then Ruelaine, weaving her web the way she does, had already talked to Bob at LEAP, who, as he shared, said, let's do this. And we did this. So, I'm going to skip through the rest of that history that I had prepared. Thanks, Bob. I do appreciate it. What I want to do is I want to thank Masaki for the energy you've put into this before you were Poet Laureate, while you were Poet Laureate, and continuing on. This Saturday, Masaki's organized the Lansing Poetry Festival at the Capital Area District Library with guest feature Richmond, Virginia Poet Laureate Roscoe Burnhams. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is probably the 50th nationally known spoken word poet that Masaki has brought to town. I don't know the numbers on the gig with Neil Hilborn that you had just up the street at our brand new flashy venue. But
That was hot, by the way.
yeah, so Lansing's on the spoken word circuit now, folks, thanks to Masaki.
Yeah.
You know what else? There are so many upcoming poets in this community right now, and a lot of that is because of the poetry room and the way it's the poetry room. Is there anybody here who hasn't ever been to a poetry room? Anybody? Okay, you've
They're
all
not
been.
gonna out themselves.
You've all come.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't, come out just to see a real cross section of Lansing. You've got old broads like me. You've got high school kids coming up to the mic. You've got folks from every walk of life coming up. Some have never been in front of a mic before. Some have done it more than a few times. And everyone is welcome, and everyone is supported. And it has really grown the number of folks interested in poetry. Masaki's been mentoring people in high school workshop. He's been mentoring the MSU Slam team all along. I can't say enough. So we are so blessed in this community with the poets. Dennis. During Dennis's term, we can still see the sidewalk poetry around town from his term. Laura's term and her, remote workshops by design, and by, what choice do we have? Connected folks, there were folks zooming in from England, from Greece. Talk about, connecting. So, yes. What I'd like to do now, if I could please, Laura Apol sadly was unable to be here tonight because she is in Victoria, British Columbia at the moment. She sent me a few words to share, a little message. Laura Apol's remarks. I'm very sorry not to be there to celebrate with you all today. It's always a cause for celebration to pass the laurel, to recognize the closing of one laureate's tenure and the beginning of another. I'm happy to welcome Masaki into the club of Lansing Poet Laureate Emerita, with gratitude for all he brought to the position. And I look forward to all the things Ruelaine will do in that role. I'm not with you in person marking this moment because I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, leading a writing retreat and doing some writing of my own. And while I'm sad not to be a part of the Lansing Laureate event, my presence in Victoria is a concrete example of one central aspect of the Lansing Poet Laureate position. That is, that it doesn't actually begin with the laurel being passed, nor does it end there. It represents a moment, a period of time in a long-term commitment to poetry and the arts, both on the part of the individual laureate and in the position itself. Dennis had been doing readings, leading workshops, teaching poetry, and involving himself in poetry projects for years before he was the inaugural Poet Laureate. Masaki was performing his work and was gifting the community with the poetry room at the Robin Theater long before the laurel was passed to him. And both Dennis and Masaki have and will continue to engage with poetry, both here in Michigan and beyond. By the same token, Ruelaine has been organizing readings, events, workshops, guest poets, programs for decades. I know of no one in the community with a greater commitment to making poetry happen for the Lansing area. I could go on and on about her work with the Lansing Poetry Club, the monthly readings she's organized for years at local restaurants, coffee shops, art galleries, and churches. She was one of the first poets I met when I arrived in Lansing nearly 30 years ago. Back then, the readings were at Brick House and later at the Creole Gallery. But Ruelaine's involvement in the poetry community of the Lansing area goes back much further than that, and it goes forward as well. Most recently, I had the opportunity to work with her on the My Secret Lansing project, her conception of a way to celebrate through creative writing the aspects of the Lansing area that make this a unique and remarkable place to live. After her dedicated work with the granting organizations, workshop leaders, community funders, writers, and a book designer, and after the joyous celebration she organized to accompany that project, it seems most fitting that she be selected as Lansing's next poet laureate. All of which is to say that the laureate position demonstrates that poetry has been, is, and will continue to be alive and well in the Lansing area. The position itself foregrounds something that already existed and that goes on and on, helping raise awareness of the poetry offerings in mid-Michigan and the many opportunities to celebrate the arts of all sorts. Likewise, a poet laureate's commitment to poetry does not begin with their appointment to the role, nor does it end with the passing of the laurel to someone new. The Emerita laureates continue to engage poetry in ongoing ways, and each laureate brings a different set of strengths as a writer, a performer, a workshop leader, and an emissary for poetry and arts to the position. That's part of the power of the laureateship. I'm honored to have been one in this growing line of laureates. I'm delighted to celebrate from afar this passing of the laurel. Thank you, Masaki, and congratulations, Ruelaine. With my very best wishes, Laurel. I meant to mention, too, I think the very first time I ever read poetry in public, in front of folks, because I thought maybe it would help me with a few public speaking skills, was at the Creole Gallery.
Nice.
Downtown. First time I read my home. At any rate, I'm going to ask Dylan to return to the stage and introduce us to Masaki.
One more time for Laurie Hollinger. It's in many ways thanks to Laurie that we're all gathered here today. Laurie's done an amazing job on a short time frame of organizing this entire event. So great job, Laurie. Thank you for everything you do. Okay, I'm honored to have been granted permission to introduce Masaki. I was going to write a poem, I was going to write a bunch of stuff, and then I felt intimidated about doing that in front of a room full of poets, and I didn't. I'm going to spit from the dome, as they say, on the stage here. But before I get into that, I just want to I would be remiss if I didn't mention 2 to 5 things. And one of them, thank you, Laurie. 2 of them, make sure to visit Scott from Everybody Reads and Ari, who letterpressed these amazing programs. If you don't already have a program for the show or poetry books, enough poetry books, which you don't, Scott is back there by the door. So after we wrap things up and you're mingling, I forgot to mention in the beginning, and they're amazing, so go check them out. Also, Ruelaine, I love you, I've always loved you, and I'm very happy for you. Congratulations. It's not my job to intro you, but love you. Congratulations. Yeah, also, so like, in my many, many years ago, in my misspent youth, back in the era of 2012, all those years ago, I used to like going to this place called Dagwood's, and they had an open mic, this Dagwood's open mic. And you know, I would go there with my band, and we would make people listen to our 3 songs every Tuesday night. It was a whole scene. I know some of you used to go to it as well. It was a hot spot. If you weren't familiar with Dagwood's, Dive Bar and Jen Siggett, who's too good for this world, hosted a weekly, it was weekly, and I think it started at 9. So it was like real, like now, like as Masaki and I, we're in bed. But I think it started at 9 o'clock. And it was this gathering, and so like mostly people with guitars, folk music, singer-songwriters, whatever. So we'd hang out, we'd play music, have some beer and all that. And it was at that event that I first met Masaki. And this infectiously enthusiastic supporter of, to my mind, it was like, he was like the biggest fan of every single person who got up on stage. And was just like his energy was infectious, as I said, but he was just like really giving of it to other people too. And so naturally he was welcomed into our circle of musicians who love it when people tell them that they're wonderful. So this guy would come hang out, and we got to know him a little bit, but didn't know too much about him. And then it turns out he's been in the Slam Poetry Club at MSU, and you can correct me if I'm wrong later, but he's in the Slam Poetry Club. He writes some poetry. He's got this battered notebook he's just been filling with poems. And one night we're all hanging out at Dagwood's, which is, again, a dive bar in blue-collar Lansing on a folk music open mic night. And Masaki Takahashi is like, I don't know, should I read? I think I want to read one. And we're like, hell yeah, read one, great. You're gonna die, but like, go for it, great. For the first time, Masaki goes up, he gets on stage, Jen gives him a little intro. And for the first time ever, not just the musicians sitting at the table by the open mic station, but the entire bar on a busy midweek night, open mic night, it's packed in there. The entire bar goes dead silent. And Masaki slams this poem. I think it was about riding the catabus. Yeah. And the room exploded. And that memory has stuck with me. I mean, I liked him before it, but like, I saw something in him in that moment that was just so powerful. To me, it was a turning point in the way I saw poetry in Lansing. I've been so lucky to get to hear him perform, to be his friend, and to share so many events, so much space with Masaki over the years. It's something that you know, there have been a lot of wonderful things said already about Masaki and what he's contributed to this community. He has also relentlessly improved himself through this process. He's been committed not just to helping the community, but to growing as an artist, and has never stopped doing that. I don't think he ever will. He's a true artist in that way, and I love him for it. I could go on, and I don't want this event to go all night, but seriously, I could say I could go on. But the last thing that I just want to share is that there are blind spots for me. I like to get everyone in a room and feel good together, right? That's like my favorite thing to do. And Masaki has his eyes on, like, he has his eyes on the future. He has goals that he sets, and then like does things to like achieve them. It's actually incredible. And the numbers, I know the numbers are floating around there somewhere, but like hundreds, thousands of lives of poets and Lansing folk who now love living here more because of the work that Masaki's done. He's seeded our community with all of these growing poets. You know, I know it was a challenge to find somebody to fill his shoes here for the Poet Laureate program, and I think Ruelaine's an excellent choice for that. But to find somebody that does, like, there's no one else doing it like Masaki does it. So, yeah, yeah. And I have to say, because of the work that he's done in his years as Poet Laureate, I think Lansing has a chance at some of those seeds he planted growing, germinating, and becoming beautiful future Poet Laureates and part of this program. So, thank you all for being here. Let's get really loud for Masaki Takahashi!
A lot of my successes is because he believed in me, just like I believe in a lot of you all. That a little bit of belief turns into a lot. And I want to thank Dennis too, because he actually taught me how to write. I like how Dennis is the only one not laughing. and I'm really glad that, you know, I'm the first, I'm the third Poet Laureate, the first person of color, the first immigrant, the first non-native speaker, the first person who had to do this, like working like a software job and working this full time and doing all of this all at once. Was it easy? Absolutely. It actually was. It was actually super easy to be Poet Laureate because I love doing what we do. And I find it so ironic that I was in ESL class till 2nd grade, and I get the privilege and honor to pass the Laurel to somebody who dedicated their entire life to being an ESL teacher. So, as much, and that's why I kind of like took the time out. I look at these chapters in my life, and I dedicated that to Mrs. Good, who was my 2nd grade teacher. And this entire time I thought about how we come here as poets, and we earn our name, right? You have to earn your name here. The title is cool. The title, we serve the community. The community serves, it's cool to serve the community, but as a poet, I'm a poet first, sorry, but it is what it is. And thank you, Bob and Lee, for all that. The checks helped for me to get workshops and all that. All the money is gone. I spent all of it to get better. As the meat clerk yells out, order up for Mikishi, Miyaki, Misago. Is it you? It's Masaki, actually. I think to myself after I correct the pronunciation of my name, where did they get these other letters from? Miyaki, really? And why is this person chuckling? Maybe I too should find the irony hilarious if I wasn't so annoyed waiting for my order in this deli as the cashier apologizes for butchering my name. At this point, I'm used to it. My name is the fat that holds the flavor of my homeland, but still, too much umami for this country's taste. So when it's being chopped down by a meat cleaver mouth, I correct them because my name is a proud wave of a tattered flag. They say a name does not. My name is a proud wave of a tattered flag. They say a name does not. I had to do it.
You got it.
My name is a proud wave of a tattered flag. They say a name does not define you, but mine gives me definition. My name is Masaki Takahashi. It is the pride of my mother. It is the only remnants of my father I have left. My name means high bridge, flourishing tree, as if my parents were prophets, known of the troubled waters I'd have to encounter while still trying to be. I do not know why I'm having. Not today for some odd reason. But okay, let's switch the style up real quick. I got one on paper too. I was actually gonna say I'm gonna show a different style, and I wanted to do this one, and then I was gonna talk about the trash, and then go. I could switch it up too. Nichulama is Mandarin translation for "Have you eaten yet?" To ask someone if they have been nourished today is to inquire "How are you?" or to state "I love you." The best way I know how to show love is through food, but this week I haven't been loving myself that much. This week I have opened up the Subway app twice, ordered the steak and egg breakfast sandwich with spinach, onions, and green peppers, which I pretend to be flourishing forest in bloom. Yellow peppers bright as hallowed suns, light in the chipotle sauce, put it on a flatbread. This isn't gourmet or mom's kitchen. Mom's fried rice, what always comforts me. It's just that this will have to do until I can indulge on pasta and sipping on wine with good friends, because right now I feel like I am running out of time, just like the way I did not know my best friend Kelly would be dead. How the body will get anxious and break down when it's hungry. It will miss the feast and full belly laughs. Starvation will remind someone of what they are missing. In a state where people are starving, they will shred food to make it look like a pile, make it look like more. Like the way I take apart and shred every last text and think about how I could have done more, been a better friend, but I can't. The last time we ate together was in Florida at a Thai restaurant where the waitress was rude and short with me. And she joked about how the waitress thinks I'm hitting on her. Kelly, with all her wisdom, was not a prophet. But I wonder if the disciples knew if they were eating with Jesus for the last time, would they have acted differently? Would the food taste different? Would they fast to have an extra day? Would they hunger till the immune system shuts down? The body's reserve starts to deplete, or will the body fight back and allow me to forgive myself for not knowing that would be our last meal together? Why did it take death for me to understand why people pray before they eat? Grief has robbed me of my appetite. I hunger and I shrink and I scavenge for the crumbs of her memories. I make plans to see her again someday, and the first thing I will ask is, "Ichilama?" Let me try this one more time. A different poem,
Okay.
right? Because Bob kind of paid for my training. So I appreciate that, and it took, when that was the great thing about being Poet Laureate, that you had to level up your skill. That's how I felt about it. Dennis had told me before I became Poet Laureate, gave me this like checklist of things, like you gotta get published, you have to do all these things, and I listened to him. I did all the things because I really wanted to be able to serve the community better, and I think the thing about growing this community, I try to use social media sometimes. Someone's going live over there, you ever just try to post a video and it got like 2 views?
Yeah.
You're like, that's you and your mom or whoever. I was watching this YouTube video the other day, right? Titled, "Clueless White Guy Orders in Perfect Chinese." And it had over 78 million views. And I thought to myself, would people watch a video of me ordering food at Applebee's? No, they wouldn't, because I just don't eat at Applebee's. But if I did, that thought inspired this poem titled, "Genius Asian Slams in Perfect English." I write this poetic parody, a deep dive look into the surface level set for a white man in this country. Not you all, you are all alright. Arya Smith claims that he can speak perfect Chinese, but he is walking into my home claiming to be the perfect guest, but still has his goddamn shoes on. The comments posted regarded him as cultured, crowned him to be a genius. And this made me wonder if this is the same standard that we have for every Karen who says gracias at a Taco Bell drive-thru, every Chad who bows and says konnichiwa at a sushi bar, every yogi in Lululemon that jokes and says namaste in bed. Turning sacred culture into a pun. Reactions of working class people enter entertainment. After I was done watching the video, I thought it was a how-to tutorial on exploiting people of color's culture for self-serving gains. Sometimes I wonder if they know the tricks of this trade, how I made my dialect disappear. Assimilation waved in front of my maiden language, and poof, me and my mother's conversation vanished into thin air. Watch me pull my perfect Chinese out of a hat for their applause. Abracadabra my accent like an illusion, tucked behind their ears, gone. So I can speak perfect English and write poetry. See the amazement of the audience gasping, but he speaks so well. This poem is about how they will never know the sacrifice for me to speak so well. Their days languishing to learn a language that doesn't even understand itself. We'll go back to me in grade school, ESL class. Mrs. Good trying to console me with a face full of discouragement stapled to these tears, and how I struggled to pronounce my R's and L's right, just to watch him struggle for him to take what is ours and make it into something else right. For him, R.A. Smith, he had the privilege to learn a language I spent all of my time forced to forget. For him, Chinese was just a new hobby. For me, English meant survival. So here we are, 78 million views later, singing his praises. Let's all watch, rewatch, and share his videos. Spread it around like a disease. It is so infectious to replicate and kill the host sound. And isn't that the definition of going viral? Congratulations, Ruelaine. I kind of thought that was a great poem to kind of go on to thanking someone who spent all of their lives teaching ESL students. So.
Give it up for Masaki. I sat down with him 6 years ago, and I'm just so amazed at what he's accomplished, so proud of him. And the Kelly poem is killer, so. Good evening. I'm a page poet, so I've got paper here. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I have the daunting and happy task of introducing our new poet laureate, Ruelaine Stokes. Daunting because if you've read her bio, you know there's so much to cover. So I wanted to digress briefly and tell you some new stuff. Probably some of you know all this already. Ruelaine and I have lived on the same street for 25 years. And I can honestly say she's a good neighbor. Lawn mowed, sidewalk shoveled, but there's the issue of the cats. The one now is a lovely cat, but also a biter. I suspect others in the audience have been bitten too. By said Charlie, whom I love. And then there's the infamous Claude. May he rest in peace. He favored the dirt below a certain living room window of mine for his you-know-what. But it was okay. I'd already known Ruelaine for 10 years. I've known her really for 35 years. I can't believe these numbers. I know. I was stunned when I started doing the math. And when I knew her, she was already an instigator of poetry events in this city. Since then, I've been a first-hand witness, workshop collaborator, friend, brainstormer, etc., guy down the street looking at poems, as she moved from those early days at Hobie's in East Lansing to the glory days at Creel Gallery with the old-time poets. I know some of you remember that. It was wonderful. To her current work with the Lansing Poetry Club, and everything in between, too numerous to name, so I won't name it. She gets the power of poetry, this most portable of arts, and how it builds soul and spirit into the cultural fabric of the spaces we inhabit that would be inert otherwise without a flourishing art scene, of which now poetry is a part, thanks to Leap and Laurie and Lane. She, more than anyone else I can think of, has been at the forefront of this work. In the history of poetry in Lansing, she would not only be a central character, but also comprise chapters, many chapters. So I'm not surprised to be standing here introducing her, but I'm also excited. This is a new chapter for her to write with new expectations in a 3-county kingdom to play in. So I can't wait to see what happens next. And I'm happy, as I'm sure many of you are, to assist in any way we can to ensure that the next 2 years are a roaring success. So it is with great pleasure I introduce my neighbor, She took care of my cat, so I'm so grateful. My friend, my fellow writer, and now the 4th Poet Laureate of the greater Lansing area, Ruelaine Stokes.
Hello out there. This is gonna be fun. Thank you so very much for coming tonight and just supporting poetry in our community. We have an amazing community. I'm always amazed by the cultural vitality of Lansing, the whole Lansing area. We have human capital, just an amazing amount of human capital, and the arts here are so alive and so accessible. Thank you all for your generosity of spirit, your recognition of the contributions of poets to our community, to the buffet of arts that we all enjoy. I was thinking, actually I read this from some famous photographer, I think, that poetry is very much like a photograph in that it captures a tiny slice of time. A moment really. Like a photo, it freezes the moment so we can look at it again and again and see it more clearly. A poem can hold the memory of the past and allow us to bring the memory into the present moment. So if I go back to a memory, I think of being a kid in Livingston, Montana, where my favorite restaurant was Martin's Cafe, which was really, really cool. It was built onto the railroad station, so it looked like from the outside that it was part of the railroad station, but it was this solid, essential essence of restaurant. And it had a pie case, and the pies were wonderful. They were famous for pies, and I remember being a little kid sitting on a stool at the counter and staring at the pies. And this poem is not about that. This poem is much later, when I was already an adult and had come back to visit my family. And on this particular night, I want you to imagine it's December in Livingston, Montana, which is in the mountains. It is incredibly cold. The windows are covered with frost. Snow is blowing through the parking lot and down the dark city streets. On a night like this, it feels like Martin's is alone in the universe, surrounded by snow. And the title is All the Restaurants of My Heart. Indelible, the heart print on the window pane, the minute hand falling, voices bubbling high in the air. We are gathered here to find shelter. This coffee, this cup, this circle of heat in the midst of the great frozen plain. Still, the vision eludes. All the questions of my life lie in a heap by the door. My mind wanders. Sin, salvation, fingers pointing in all directions, the rich, the poor, the first, second, and third worlds, you, me, the kids. I know nothing, only that you are sitting at my table, tears in your hand, wanting something more. I offer this coffee, this cup, this light, breaking like laughter at your feet on the floor. The writer John Knowles, and I think it was in that wonderful, romantic, and sexy novel, The French Lieutenant's Woman, I think that was it. He said, time is a room. You know, this is a room, and this is time. He said, time is not a road that you walk down with milepost after milepost. Time is a room, and I think that's such an interesting insight are transitions between them, but the rooms we inhabit, even when the rooms are outside, are what defines our lives. As Masaki mentioned, as maybe other people have mentioned, I was an ESL teacher forever, for decades. I worked at MSU and LCC in the Refugee Development Center in a variety of community programs with refugees, immigrants, international students, and a fabulous way of life. I used to feel like I was staying in one place and the world was coming to see me. It was really, I think all those students helped me grow up. And one of the things I used to tell people, I had to teach pronunciation classes and loved it. I even used poetry as a tool for teaching pronunciation and used that as my master's. And so they learned more. They loved it. They would then like write poems in their language on the blackboard and translate them. It was really, really, really seriously cool. Well, one of the things I used to tell them is that language is music. And the different kinds of languages are just different kinds of music. When we speak or sing, our body is the instrument. And we also produce the instrument that produces the music, but we are also at the same time not only the instrument, but the songwriters and the song itself. It's really an incredible capacity that we take for granted. If you think about it, language is insubstantial. It's only air. It comes up from our lungs, our vocal cords, our jaw, our tongue, our lips, shape it and make these different sounds. And I'm trying to remember exactly how many. I think there might be 44, 45 different sounds in English. And we combine those, and with that we make, just a zillion words. And with a zillion words, we can make an infinite number of statements about reality. It's only air. It's only air. And using this air, we do this amazing thing, which is we take thoughts and feelings from inside our head and we send them through the air to another person. And they get them inside their head. And we take this for granted. It's really astounding to be a human. Plus, we have this other system, this symbolic system that we call writing. So we make little marks on paper or on, electronic screens, and we transmit those same thoughts and feelings to people in other towns, around the country, around the world, even through time. Language is an amazing power. A poem is one of the most powerful forms that language takes. And I know this because my old teacher in college, Ivor Winters, who was kind of a grouchy guy, but he was a really brilliant grouchy guy. And he wrote really tight, beautifully crafted poems, and he was a formidable critic. And I think he said, poetry is the highest form of literature. And he was very confident, so I believed him. And you should believe him too. You should believe him too. But I do want to say that a poem is one of the most powerful forms of language. The right poem at the right time can save a friendship, can save a marriage, sometimes even a life. It's a really cool art form. Since I was announced the Poet Laureate, I think it was only this past Friday, a lot of people have asked me what is my vision as laureate, and I want to say I've only been the laureate for 3 minutes. Let me take a breath here. But I do have some dreams, some scraps of dreams, some little glimpses of vision that I want to test out to see if they'll work. One thing I definitely want to do is I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to people in the poetry scene, also people who are neutral about poetry, people who hate poetry. I'm just really curious to hear what they have to say. And I know what I would love to see fantasy, so these are just fantasy visions that I'm going to toss out. I would love to see, you know, sort of poetry university, like a full curriculum of poetic arts offered. And I know Poetry University is too big a thought, so it has to be smaller than that. But I think it would be so, we have brilliant workshops, and you know, we have wonderful teachers, Masaki, so many people. Jay does a great job, Dennis, I mean, we have brilliant teachers of poetry. I just think it would be great to sort of create a framework in which poets can learn the whole curriculum, which would include writing, public presentation in a variety of contexts, because oral poetry takes different forms. Publishing, which is, I mean, that's something that's tough for me, recording, teaching, producing, and marketing events. All of that is part of what it is to be a poet. So, anyhow, that's just a thought, building on what we already do to offer the full sequence. You know, at MSU, in the summer, I believe there's banjo camp. I don't know when banjo camp is. I think there's a guitar camp. I think there are all these different arts camps. I would love to see a poetry camp, where children and adults come to learn and practice skills in poetry from elementary to advanced. I'd love to see poetry become more visible and audible, perhaps an exhibit which combines visual art and poetry, perhaps a monthly poem in newspapers, perhaps poems on the radio, perhaps poems in businesses around town, perhaps a theatrical project that combines song, speech, and spoken word. Yeah. I would love to attend a state poetry conference in Lansing that celebrates Michigan poets and poetry. I would love to see poetry pop-ups, and I think Masaki, you who love food so much, and I who love food so much, could work on this. Poetry, I think we need to eat together a lot. Okay, and I do plan to go on a listening tour so I can get ideas from poets all over the Tri-County area. Not everything is possible, certainly not at once, but my job will be to listen to as many people and poetry organizers in our area, see how we can work together to magnify the impact of what we do, how we can help one another. My job will be to create a realistic plan, a doable plan, and then move forward. I do want to thank quickly, if possible, everybody who's made this wonderful Lansing Poet Laureate project possible, especially Bob Trezise, who had the crazy idea that Lansing needed a laureate, the RCAH Center for Poetry, where Laurie Hollinger just works absolute magic, the Poetry Club, especially all of the poets on the board who not both create poetry and also they create opportunities for other poets to shine, the Arts Council, which has undertaken the task of shepherding the Laureate project along with all the other vital work they do in the arts, all of the previous laureates who've done such a magnificent job, Dennis, Laura, Masaki, also Ari Colwine, who has created for each of the laureates, for each event, Ari has created this hand-set letterpress booklet. It's a work of art with a poem by the outgoing laureate and by the incoming laureate. And they're just, I save all the ones that I have. It's really a labor of love. I know he did it under short time pressure this time. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And also Dylan, who's amazing in my mind. I think of Dylan Rogers as young Shakespeare. I don't tell him that, but that's how I think of him. No pressure. No pressure. Okay. Let's start writing. Okay. What I want to do is end with one of my tiny little poems, and this is, I call this one a pandemic blessing. I wrote it, I think it was in fall of 2020, so the vaccines weren't out yet, and life was still quite severe. There was, you know, we couldn't do much, and I I certainly was constantly scared that the viruses were around everywhere. But this is a pandemic blessing. And a friend and I were driving back. She was driving, and we were coming back on 27 into the city. It's one of those heavy cloud-covered days in December, but there were spots where the clouds, holes in the clouds, and then the sunshine through. And I always marvel at how the light travels in lines, and so you get this shaft, this pillar of light. And I was looking at that, and this poem came. Okay. We stand under a cathedral sky, fashion moon, a blessing for one another, a blessing of clouds pierced by shafts of light. The light infuses our words and opens our hearts. Now we too are light. The sky will not fall on our heads. The sky will remain the sky. We'll send gifts of rain and snow to soften the fields, feed the flowers, give us strength. Breathe in. That is a blessing. Breathe out. That too is a blessing. Keep breathing and listen to the sound of your breath greeting the air.
Masaki, would you mind returning to the stage, please? This is that moment we discussed earlier. I want to tell you this is a really true Lansing moment. This is Lansing mountain laurel harvested fresh today.
I'm so happy. If I can, because you were asking for advice, I don't want you to ever think realistically. I never thought realistically. You guys, Dylan, I don't want you to ever think realistically because you're gonna do more than that, And I want you to blow up this poetry thing with economics, right? I don't want poets to. You're very kind and you do so much for other people. I want us to be selfish for a little bit and really conserve, feed each other in this community because how you do so much for those other charities which I love. But we poets need things too, right? Right? So it's time when you're as poet laureate, I hope that you open up the doors for everybody else. You've done a great job in so many communities, and I'm so glad that this is you.
Oh my gosh, one more time for Ruelaine. So folks, thank you so much for being here tonight. If you can, take a moment before you leave, if you haven't already, to share your appreciation with the laureates present. That is here, present, past, and future. Please be sure, and Ari, thank you again for crafting these beautiful booklets. Do stop by and say hello to Scott Harris, peruse the books that he's brought for sale. I just love this community, don't you? Don't you love this? Look at us all here. So on behalf tonight of the Lansing Area Economic Partnership, the Arts Council of Greater Lansing, the Lansing Poetry Club, and the RCAH Center for Poetry, as well as the Robin Theater, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. And thank you, Dylan. You've made us all feel so at home. You've been awfully kind with all of my little technical questions and challenges and speed bumps. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Masaki. Thank you, Laura, if you're watching. And welcome and congratulations to our new Lansing Poet Laureate, Ruelaine Stokes.
Mine was kind of quick and short. This is perfect. This is perfect.